I'm in Lexington, Massachusetts. Today is the 12th Lexington Open Studios Day.
Exactly, whatever.
Although COVID-19 slows down the world and restricts our freedom, we can't stop artists from creating their works because the world needs art. Now, let's take a look at artist studios. Hi, Judith. How do you feel right now?
Excited.
Tell me about your works.
I do lots of different things. I was trained as a painter at Boston University, but then I took a trip out to the Southwest and was very inspired by the Native Americans and how they brought their spirituality into what they created and how they used it in their daily lives. And that started me spinning and weaving, and after, go back to drawing. So when they train you in school to draw, they train you to draw from the outside in. I wanted to learn how to draw from the inside. I put up a piece of paper, I limited my palette to black and white, and I put a mark on the paper, which corresponded to where I was emotionally at that moment in time. I did it last year when we were finding out all the terrible things about the climate crisis and what we've done to the earth, and I was feeling a lot of rage about it. I also was feeling the split of people going one way or going to a different direction and not being concerned about their own responsibility with the earth. There are two figures holding, they're made of clay, they're holding geese, and I call them holding on to hope, because I was feeling quite desperate about the situation in our country. I think spiritual and personal growth are very important to me. A lot of my life has been about being responsible for who I am and growing as much as I can. I like pushing ideas. When I work with people, I want them to be reflective about what they're creating. It's going into their creating and how they can make it better or higher or deeper.
Finally, what is art to you?
So the Balinese has a phrase that I actually used in my master's thesis. It is, we have no art in our culture, we just do things with care. For me, I mean, you go through the house, I've made tables, I've done upholstery in the chairs, I make stuff. I mean, people go to IKEA when they need a table. I build it. I enjoy that process. And for some reason, I came into this lifetime with the ability to do that, or the ability to find out how to do it. So it's part of the living of my life. It's not, I don't feel it separate.
Today it's an exciting day. Thank you for coming here and interviewing me.
I saw your works are really unique in style, so how did you choose your style?
I love nature and I do many walks around Lexington, and I get inspiration from the nature that surrounds us and also the news that we get in the newspaper. So I try to combine them both. So I'm a printmaker, and so I print the tea bags and I burn them, I stitch them, symbolizing the pain of the people, and I also work with a handmade paper, so all the people that you see there are real people, are made with a handmade paper. So this is another piece about the Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico, and I combined the people's stories and that they told me over tea, and that's why we have the colors of Puerto Rico and the tea stories and the people and no electricity and all the problems that they had during the hurricane. Also, if you take a very careful look hidden in the island, hidden through the tea bags, there are figures of the Taino people, which are the indigenous people for Puerto Rico. And also I put there the birds, because this is what stays in the island, figurative, right? That the nature and what has been there, the culture of the Taino people. You can find good stuff everywhere and also bad stuff. So I come from Argentina, where we experienced a military coup. I grew up under the military government, and that was very tough, but I also get a lot of inspiration from the place where I grew up.
Is selling artworks your only source of income?
No, I do a lot of workshops, and I work at universities, and I teaching students about art. I did last semester I was working with the mass art.
What is art to you?
Everything and everyone. Art is everywhere.
I'm a mixed media collage artist. I really started out as a quilter, and if you look at my work, you can kind of see the grids, the squares, the vertical lines. I work with stencils. I also work with what's called a jelly print, which is really fun because you never know what you're going to get. So you roll out paint onto a jelly print, and you put stencils on, and then when you put the paper on and then peel it off, it's just so fun. I finish those pieces, I cut them up, kind of like when I'm cutting fabric with a quilt. And for me, the dance and the rhythm comes when I put those pieces together. And I play with it, and the pieces talk to each other. And when the dance is complete and the piece is done, I adhere it to the board and I varnish it. Right now I'm exploring nature. As a printer, I like to look at where I am in my environment. In terms of being a process artist, I just go for my gut. So whatever I'm feeling that day and that minute, if there's a square stamp or a triangle, if I'm feeling it, I put it into my work. It's just how I'm feeling in the moment.
Well, I work with acrylics. I usually get inspired by my travels. I have paintings from Thailand and local paintings, as this one, right from the wetlands in Lexington. Also China and Iceland, and all over the world. So that's where my inspiration comes from. My favorite place in the world by far was India. And it's not for everybody. At times, what you saw was heartbreaking. The poverty and that's what I like seeing. I like seeing real cultures. I like seeing how people live. For example, I went to Cuba, and it was a very structured tour. You had to see what they wanted you to see. Both me and my wife mysteriously got ill. Wink, wink. And told the tourist guide, we can't accompany you today because we're both not feeling very good. And she goes, yeah, I understand. And we went off, and we invited ourselves into people's homes, and people were very happy to have us come in. But some of the stories that they told us were absolutely heartbreaking. Stories of selling their children to foreigners for sexual reasons, in order to feed their families. And they kind of asked me, it's like, what would you do? Would you have your family starve? Or would you make this extremely hard decision? And it's like, it just tore me apart. And that's I did this painting that's behind me, and I call it An Ordinary Day in Cuba. But you can kind of tell by the artwork that's on the building, that the pain of the people. And if you look behind the hidden doors, you can kind of get a glimpse of the lives of people in Cuba, but it's all kind of a secret. Nobody is to know about it. And the people in Cuba told me that if the government knew that I was telling you what I'm telling you, we would go away for the rest of our lives. So it's very, and each country had its story. And each country not only broke my heart, but brought great joy to me as well. My wife is a great critic and she's also a great artist. She can look at my painting and instantly know your perspectives on it.
Finally, do you have a favorite artist?
My favorite artist is my wife.
My name's Susan Polanski, and the work I do is called Stitched Fabric Collage.
And I saw this machine over here, so what is this?
So this is a long arm machine. It was made for traditional quilters to make bed quilts, but I use it as a drawing tool. I change the thread colors a lot. Right now, I have it set up to do a comfort quilt. In a quilt guild that I'm in, somebody else makes the quilt, somebody else finishes the quilt, I just do the stitching on it. And then it goes to homeless shelters and fire stations and stuff. So this is just a random pattern that I'm putting on here that will attach all the layers together. But with this type of work, it is so time consuming that it's much better if I have a plan to work with. And sometimes that plan will be I'll Photoshop photographs together and make a good composition, and then I'll interpret that composition into fabric. And other times I'll start with a drawing, and then I'll convert the line drawing into shapes and figures. I can do a piece in about 3 months, but I have also taken 3 years to do a piece. It really just depends on what the piece needs. I tell people that my superpower is patience. Art is my soul. It's just how I think, it's how I communicate, it's how I express my ideas and my feelings. It's how I show how I interpret the world to other people. And sometimes I hope for an emotional response. Sometimes I hope to just increase the beauty in the world. Sometimes I hope to affect possibly a political situation. Like this one here was a vintage tablecloth of my mother's that I painted over for a protest quilt. I'm a positive person, so I didn't want it to be, very negative about the current political situation. So I focused on the fact that we can protest. And I painted all of the protest figures around, and I mocked the words that were on the original tablecloth that said United States, and I wrote it as United Statements. And then I wrote the First Amendment all around. Because I thought the original tablecloth says United States American Wonderland. And my thought was the true wonder of America is that we can have a right to say things. And my thought that with this being in a show and it traveled the country, that it would help people reflect on, what we have as Americans, and that just a reminder. And sometimes when you have something in a fabric medium, something that's more difficult to say or to think about, it's easier and it helps people to talk about it a little bit more. This is my wonderful gallery. We've been here 32 years. We do portraits as well as paintings in realism. Right now we have Birds of America showing. These are watercolors, the 4 surrounding here by Barry Van Dusen. He's very well known in the bird world. He shows in Audubon, in a lot of the Audubon museums. And these are photographs by Bernie Creswick. So we have photographs of birds and paintings of birds.